It's Scream 1! Yeah, that's what they should have called it. I mean, like, they didn't think this was gonna be a franchise. They should have just Pokemon the first movie it. Actually, maybe they didn't know, because you know that ghost face mask that's in all the movies now? That was a mask that existed before the film. I remember seeing it in Halloween shops, and I always thought it looked kind of cool, and I get the feeling they knew this was going to be a long-lasting franchise, like going even to today. They might have created their own original design. Bottom line, whoever made this, I hope they're getting residuals. Anyway, Scream, the slasher movie that redefined slasher movies, or so they said back then, and yeah, okay, my thoughts on this are a little complicated, because my thoughts on slasher movies are already a little complicated. So everyone's gonna have that comfort food media, whether it be a film or a song or a genre music or a genre movies or shows or anything like that. And for a lot of people, it's slasher movies, and I get it. The formula is very clear, it can be very fun, there's a lot of clear tropes that you just kind of look forward to, but I'll be totally honest, I find them kind of boring. Not to say they're bad, again, I can tell the difference between a good one and a bad one, but even the groundbreakers like Halloween and Friday the 13th, I respect, but I don't really watch in October. I'm just too familiar with the formula, and the formula just doesn't interest me that much. The only ones I get into are the ones that do something really crazy, like Sleepaway Camp, or Terrifier, or Candyman, ones that take the formula and really turn it on their head and do something just totally new, whether for better or worse, or sometimes both. I like when a traditional slasher formula goes really weird, and Scream for me just isn't weird enough. The story centers around a girl named Sydney, who has a normal enough life. She goes to school, she has friends, she's got some tortured emotional baggage, but what teen doesn't? But things start going awry when not only her friends around her start dying, but apparently they're being killed by a stalker who calls their victims first, asks them questions about scary movies, and the more tropes they don't get correct, the closer he gets to killing them. There's a whole slew of colorful suspects, and all sorts of tricks and red herrings to have the audience mumble, "Ooh, I bet he did, ooh, I bet he did." And the search is on to find out who this killer is before she's his final victim. So, okay, while this film doesn't do anything personally for me, I will acknowledge it's totally competently done. The characters walk that line between likable and I can't wait for them to die, and I think they're aware of that and they kind of have fun with it. And just the overall idea is clever. In fact, I'm shocked it hadn't been done by that point. But that's also kind of an issue with me. The idea's too clever, and I kind of want more jokes done with this. I want the questions to be for real die-hard slasher nerds, and yes, I'll admit, I guess I'm not one of them, but even I know a lot of these questions are a little obvious, even the trick questions. Which I guess you could argue is the point, like this killer is going after normies who just kind of watch scary movies in passing, and he obviously obsesses over them. But after you get past that, there's nothing really that innovative about it. I guess it's the first slasher movie, or maybe the first popular slasher movie to kind of draw attention to this. Like, not only be self-aware, but kind of make the characters know about these movies. Like, it's a slasher film where slasher films do exist, and they acknowledge them a lot. Even the killer acknowledges he's playing by those rules. But I was really hoping they would play with the formula more. But with that said, I do acknowledge that could totally be the point. Like, it's a slasher movie that's giving you the traditional slasher movie. It's not going to cheap out on anything. It's still going to give you all the tropes you're used to. So I acknowledge it's fine. This is just coming from a person who didn't really get into those tropes to begin with. A lot of people talk about the surprise with Drew Barrymore, which I don't think it's a spoiler, but I'll say she was in the advertising a lot and she's not in the movie that much. But again, I kind of feel like this was already done in Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, they kind of make one person look like she's gonna be the main character and then she's out of the picture pretty early on. I mean, man, you can go back to Hitchcock for that and Psycho, except he dragged it out to like the middle of the movie. Like, that's really a choice. But at the same time, this is a Wes Craven film, so you could say it's a little send-up to himself, and yeah, sure, this is the movie to do that in, because it is about slashers. I just kind of feel like I've seen it. But for a lot of younger audiences back then, maybe they hadn't. It is one of the few mysteries I didn't figure out who the killer was, and to my credit, they pull a pet peeve that always drives me nuts, where you think it's one person, then they prove early on it's not this person, then later they show, oh yeah, it was. Like, that drives me nuts. Like, if we're gonna follow tropes, let's follow some traditional mystery tropes. Like, I know, twists and turns and everything, but it's like if you're playing Guess Who, and you ask if the other person is wearing a hat, and they say no, and then at the very end you figure out, oh, they were wearing a hat. Well, yeah, I lied. That's just not the rules. Yeah, that person can lie, but it doesn't make them very clever. It's not like, whoa, you got me. But again, it's a pet peeve that I went on way too long about. The film is still good at leading you in different directions, showing little hints like, oh hey, that character's wearing boots that the killer wore. Hey, why did that character pop up just as the killer disappeared? Like, it's pretty good at handling that kind of traditional stuff. I think it's kind of cool that the guy who does the ghost face voice is still doing it all these years later, and I looked him up. I was kind of amazed to find he's also Mojo Jojo. Now all I can think of is him stalking these characters.
It's me, Mojo Jojo.
The film's also not bad at being a little bit of a 90s time capsule. Like, you know how I always talk about Space Jam as like the ultimate 1996 time capsule? This is, okay, not a close second, but a close fifth. It is kind of fun seeing the fashions, technology, and just overall kind of different attitude, yet also similarities to today's time. I don't know, this is a perfectly fine film, it keeps your attention, it follows all the tropes. I just kind of think of what Roger Ebert said. He said, instead of watching stupid teenagers make the same old mistakes, we're now watching teenagers make all new mistakes. I kind of feel the same way, like this movie just blew up so much and everybody was talking about how good it was at breaking the fourth wall and being something new, and I just was a little let down from the hype. But at the same time, Ebert acknowledged this is good for what it is, and I say the same thing. It is good. It's just not my thing. If you like slasher films, particularly ones from the 90s, this is absolute required viewing. But if you're looking for something that's going to change the landscape of the genre, this is no Terrifier.